And welcome once again to I95.5 FM. Welcome, Andre Batiste.
Thank you very much, Roger. And of course, for all those who are listening and viewing, I know many people want to listen now. We are live on Facebook. That's I95.5 FM Facebook page. You can go on, those of you wherever you are, and you can listen and watch. We are live on Facebook on I95.5 FM. And Roger, we want to start by talking with a man who is involved with a copyright organization in Trinidad and Tobago, Asten Isaac. And once we connect with him, we will be talking with Mr. Isaac about what is going on.
Isaac is on the line.
All right. Mr. Isaac,
yes,
good evening and welcome, sir.
Yes, you are the fellas.
I'm not hearing you very clear. I'm not hearing him loud, yes. Yeah.
You hearing me?
Yeah, I'm now hearing you as well, yes.
Yes, I said
welcome
to the listening public and your listeners and viewers who are on right now.
Isaac, tell us your name, your position, and tell us about your organization and what makes your organization different to the copyright organization of Trinidad and Tobago. And again, welcome.
Okay, yes, good afternoon. So we are, and I am the Executive President of the Trinidad and Tobago Copyright Collection Organization, one of the two copyright organizations that operate within our legal jurisdiction, Trinidad and Tobago. Our responsibility at TTCO is to manage, monitor, collect, and distribute neighboring rights, which is vested in music and audio content for creatives, both represented here in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as those in Canada, Jamaica, and in South Africa, where we have reciprocal agreements. The difference between the organizations is based and vested specifically in the rights that we represent and the rights holders that we represent. Neighboring rights deals with the producers, the performers, as well as those who are featured in the recording as the background vocalists and the musicians. And copyright deals directly with the writer and the composer of the melody. This is what COTT deals with. So that's a distinction.
All right. So how does this work? Because you know what we are talking about. I know you all put out a release in relation to a video that we did here talking about the fact that...
I'm not getting the volume very, very louder.
Okay. You're not hearing... Are you hearing me any louder now?
Barely, but it's workable. Let me see how best I can...
Yes. All right. I don't know, Roger. I don't know what you can do from our end so that you can hear me louder anyway.
That's all right. Let's go.
All right. So from that perspective, tell us a little bit from in terms of this problem that is existing right now, whereby the COTT is charging bars and restaurants, they say on behalf of Rush Sports, extra fees and charges for bringing across World Cup matches. And these bars and restaurants... Yeah.
I wanted to go softer, but that was absolute nonsense, to say the least.
Explain why you think so. Explain why. Why.
It's grounded in fact, and I'll explain to you. We had several owners and bar owners and operators calling our offices, having very serious concerns about being charged 2 times for the same service. When I did an investigation, and what we uncovered was that the license holder, which is Rush Sports, was able to secure that license from FIFA for the Caribbean, and as the owner of that right, they vested an administrative control in COTT to execute some level of collection on their behalf. The issue is that same right to broadcast, which was also issued to the broadcasters that Rush already has agreements and relationships with. So it started to look as though persons who are actually broadcasting, who are well within their right to broadcast for commercial public viewing, as they will be paying subscriptions to do so to the broadcast networks like Flow, Amplia, Digital Plus, etc. They would have paid for that to broadcast in their business places. And then lo and behold, they are being called by COTT to ask them to pay a fee to do the same thing. And the issue for me was that there was a lack of transparency in explaining to the persons who own these venues that what they should be charged for was if they were charging for persons to come to look at the event. If they were charging a cover charge, or if they were collecting a sponsorship deal by way of what they were showing. And in most cases, if not all, the bars that actually took the license, most complained that they were bullied into doing so. So I had to intervene as the executive president of a copyright organization with a matter that directly affected the sector and brought the sector into a level of disrepute to bring these entities, COTT and Rush, to the table, which they did yesterday afternoon, and they made it clear in the media that they are not going to charge.
Why do you feel in the first place they wanted to charge?
And this is part of the problem that we have in societies, where persons believe that they can get an economic benefit from an activity, and they attempt to maximize that economic benefit to the disadvantage of the consumers. So this is more of a consumer protection issue in the copyright space.
But do you feel, unless we had spoken about it, which I did obviously, right? Unless we had spoken about it, nothing would have happened?
Well, I am happy that there are many persons operating in the copyright sector who would have seen and recognized that that problem existed. And because of your interaction in the space, and because of the strength of your voice, they was able to reach the desk of persons like myself, so we could have quickly called on them to account for the action.
But what happens, let me ask you this, what happens to the bars and the restaurants that went ahead and paid the money to them anyway? Will they be refunded by COTT?
Well, I can tell you this much. If they are not charging persons an entrance fee to come to that location to view any game, and they have not done so previously, then they are entitled to a rebate, because they would have been paying for something that they were, I shouldn't say coerced, but they were encouraged to believe was required for the mere broadcasting of the event, which is not the case.
So, you mentioned there was a meeting yesterday. Let's explain to those of us who may not know. I know there was a release, but not everybody had read the release. Let's explain what transpired at that meeting, yeah.
So I sent out a release, today is for Thursday, so I sent out a release on Tuesday.
Yes.
After becoming aware of the matter from you guys in public domain.
Yes.
And that release demonstrated that the difference in the licensing and the commercial public viewing license would have already been vested, or it asked the question whether or not that license was already vested in the broadcast networks already. And in response to that, Rush, which is Caribbean Premier Sports Limited, along with COTT, made a statement yesterday, I believe it's in the Guardian newspaper, where they indicated that in fact is the case, and they are only charging if persons are charging a cover charge or have a sponsorship. So persons, I believe now, bar owners, restaurants, cinemas, hotels, and persons who would have paid under the thought process that they would have to pay just to put on the television, they have to seek out some level of redress with the organizations that charge them.
Because I'm sure you are aware that they were threatened with a $250,000 fine and imprisonment as well.
I can tell you this much.
Them to do this.
Breach of the Copyright Act is section 8280, and I'm cutting off the head here, so if I miss one or two, let me know. Section 8280, the Copyright Act, section 41, subsection 42, right, actually explains that the breach of copyright, be it an individual or a person corporate, attracts fines, and that is the general breach of copyright. So yes, there are fines attached to copyright breaches, but in this case there was no breach. So then the attempt to suggest that somebody would be fined $100,000 as a body corporate or $250,000 as an individual who is breaching, it seems to be just an effort to push the narrative or to push for the sale of a license.
You mentioned there was a meeting. Can you tell us? I hear you. Can you tell us about the meeting you mentioned? You mentioned there was a meeting of parties.
Pardon me?
I say you mentioned earlier that there was a meeting between COTT, Rush, and yourself. You spoke about that.
No, there wasn't a meeting between Rush and myself. On the publication, when the media put it out, and my press release came out, COTT and Rush did a joint statement indicating that and creating the clarity that we were requesting, and they moved away from that gray area that was causing bars to be afraid and forcing them to pay.
So let me
in
ask
other
you
words, they came clean after they were questioned.
Okay. Which is all that we wanted. But I want to ask you this. Did you ever think to reach out to COTT yourself? What is the relationship? Can I ask, what is the relationship between COTT and yourself and your organization? What is the relationship? Is it a harmonious relationship? Is it filled with acrimony? Is there division? What is the relationship?
Well, I could tell you this much. Traditionally, there has been a relationship between the two organizations that has been filled with acrimony, filled with hate, filled with a lot of disregard for each other's operation. I have taken significant steps to bridge that gap, and we actually have an MOU between the two organizations signed and established in 2025 with the World Intellectual Property Office that brings a level of collaboration and cohesiveness in the space. There is much more to be done. There are contractual arrangements established between the entities as well, and we work on strengthening that relationship. But we must also be aware that we have a responsibility as organizations to not only protect the copyright of the members that we serve, but to also be responsible in the public domain while we pursue licensing. So the relationship has room for growth and development. It has been a very rocky relationship in the past. Prior to my establishing as the president of TTCO, there has been significant problems between the two organizations. However, I want to be very clear that we have signed a MOU on certain matters working together, and that has been overviewed by the World Intellectual Property Office, which is the head organization globally for IP, and the IPO office under the Attorney General in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's a work in progress, the relationship, in terms of streamlining the way that we conduct ourselves in the space, but certainly TTCO would not stand for the bullying of the public as it relates to licensing.
Going forward, what would you suggest, sir, to bars and restaurants in terms of this copyright matter? And because there may be a possibility it may arise again. Let me tell you why. Can I tell you why?
Sure.
Because there is something called the Caribbean Premier League. Rush Sports have the rights for the Caribbean Premier League, and they will be showing all of the matches live except the matches involving TKR, which will be shown on a free-to-air station in Trinidad and Tobago. But all the other matches will only be shown live on Rush Sports. I'm just worried and concerned, but hopefully, given what transpired with the World Cup, we will not see any charges. So are we saying that if the bars advertise as well for any bars who advertise for the CPL will be charged?
Well, I'm going to tell you something, and let me clarify it to you one time.
Yes.
Now, the reality is, if Rush Sports has a relationship with the broadcast networks, be it Mobile, Digital, Amplia, etc.,
yes,
that relationship and that agreement allows Rush Sports to broadcast from their content that they may own on those channels or on that network, the broadcaster's network. The broadcaster would charge a subscription for a commercial customer and a residential customer. That subscription in of itself allows the bars, and I'm saying this without fear of contradiction, that subscription, once it is available on the broadcasters, on the network, it allows the bars full public viewing and exhibition rights. The only time that right comes into question is if the bar is generating an income by way of, one, charging an entrance fee, or two, creating sponsorship generation as if they are part of the CPL organization, which in our case in Trinidad and Tobago generally never happens.
I thank you for that explanation. Very clear and precise. Now
I want to be very clear. You could quote that.
Yes.
They could put that in the pipe and smoke it.
well, Well, I hope they do, but I think the bars will be very relieved because obviously, I've been in a contact with a lot of the bars. I've never got to know the bars as good as I know now. They all know
as far as I know, on early figures, because my staff has been following up for the entire week, we have about 56 bars, restaurants, including a grocery in Trinidad and Tobago, very popular, who would have bowed under the pressure, and they would have paid for something that they probably was paying for already in the first place. So I recommend that those institutions seek a level of rebate or some level of redress as it relates to COTT and the license that they would have been issued, because certainly if they are not charging, then they would have been paying for it for their subscription with the broadcaster anyway.
Isaac, I want to thank you for coming forward honestly and bringing a lot of clarity to this matter. The writing is the writing, Andre. The writing is the writing. I know. Well, that's what I always believe anyway. But in this country, I start to say it's not always that way. All right. In this case, thanks to you and your organization as well. In addition to what we would have done, obviously.
Andre, it's the public outcry, and it's men like yourself who stand on the front line in the battlefields of bringing our country to a state where individuals can be accountable in the world of sport. I know that's your domain and that's your space. It's because of individuals like you that persons would understand that they need to step up and stand up when things like these occur. So you inspired the movement from us to become more rigid in the way that we look at how organizations operating in our copyright space, how they behave. And we hold not only COTT, but we also hold ourselves accountable and ensure that we raise the bar so that we can provide better IP protection for Trinidad and Tobago in general, because we have some fantastic products of Trinidad and Tobago created here that we need to protect the IP to be able to create value globally.
And last question before you go. Do you expect that COTT themselves will put out a release saying that, I don't know what they will say, but put out a release basically, let me use the word that I want to use, apologizing for their actions, which were misguided at best, or misdirected, whichever way you want to think about it, and which led to a lot of turmoil and would have led to persons, as you said, and I've spoken to bars and restaurants who have lost business, Mr. Isaac, because persons reading this in the media would have decided not to come to the bars and the restaurants because they didn't want any turmoil, they didn't want any disturbance during their matches. So there was a lost revenue as well. So I'm wondering, do you expect COTT, and I know you say you have a relationship with COTT, they've been very hard to come forward when we tried to contact them. I know that Roxanne Giallo tried to contact them as well, from I95.5 FM, and didn't get onto them too. So I would like to know, do you feel, given your knowledge of COTT, that they will apologize at all?
Well, let me tell you, the structure of these organizations, they are member-based organizations. So I would encourage the management and the leadership of COTT, be it operational or directorship, to come out and make amends to their clients for what they would have done. I expect that they make an apology. I think they should make an apology. Secondly, I think they should offer a rebate. And I'm going to write to COTT in my capacity as the executive of TTCO, encouraging them to take that path. Because you must remember, in organizations like these, the members are the ones who hold the right of repeal. And they can call a special general election, and they can remove the board for gross misconduct, citing this case as a grounds for such. So there are levers of pressure that can be placed on the organization if they fail to account for the economic loss, the hardships, the worry, the concern, the disruption that occurred during this World Cup, a beautiful World Cup, for something as trivial as trying to generate extra money on an exercise where somebody's paying for something already. That was absolutely out of order. Out of order.
And let me ask you this as well. Rush Sports, do you feel that Rush Sports' name has also been in the news adversely because of this? So maybe Rush Sports...
Well, I recommend, I did reach out to Rush Sports, and I recommend that Rush Sports, because they're involved in media, they seek counsel from an IP specialist when they are engaging in some of these matters if they don't have the person there already, because this could have been avoided with the simple guidance being provided by an IP specialist.
Yeah, that's quite.
It could have been avoided.
Isaac, I want to thank you very, very much for your time today. I appreciate and I really appreciate it, and I hope we can talk again. And I'm glad that you are there as well to monitor the
any IT matter in Trinidad and Tobago that is a concern. I am available to speak without charge, without a bill, without a cost. I would share and provide the research and support information that is required to create a level of clarity. I am available.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great night, and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, my brother. Same to you. Keep the fight.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right, Roger. We'll take a short break, Roger. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we will start to talk about the World Cup finals.
What World Cup? You mean the Cricket World Cup?